from my standpoint, within a week, I will be in a position to release the report to the public, and then I will engage with the chairman of both judiciary committees about that report and about any further requests that they have.
That, of course, the Attorney General Willaim Barr this past Tuesday. So the clock is ticking on when he will release the report. Barr also said that there will be redactions. Obviously, that's what caused House Democrats to demand the entire report and threaten to subpoena to force the release of it in its entirety. Of course, there is rampant speculation about exactly what Barr will release. Now, a piece in Politico written by former federal prosecutor explains that that attorney feels this is a pivotal point. Quote, "My attention will immediately focus on one specific aspect of the report, Mueller's explanation of why he declined to make a traditional prosecutorial judgment regarding obstruction of justice. This is the part of the report that could have the most immediate public consequences, since it bears most directly on the offense that could cause Democrats to seriously push for impeachment." Former federal prosecutor Carol Lamb joins us now. Carol, thank you for the time. I'd be remiss if I just didn't get your take before we get into the Mueller report on just the developments of today. And at least to and I'm not an attorney, I'm not playing one on TV, but the assault on the rule of law, the idea that our commander-in-chief would tell someone to knowingly violate a law and offer a pardon if the reporting is true, if he goes ahead and does it. Forget even the facts surrounding it, which I find reprehensible, but just the mere action of doing that, that's not healthy for a democracy, correct?
Clearly not healthy, and it's unprecedented, I hope. You know, the thing that that astonishes me is it's bad enough that the one person in the nation who has the pardon authority would say such a thing. It's even more astonishing to me that we have to wonder whether he was joking or not. That to me is a sign that we have sunk pretty low, frankly, in where we are as a democratic society. That to me would be an obvious abuse of the pardon authority, but frankly, it's never really been tested before because no one's ever come so close to the line.
You know, to that end, I've been struck in the last couple of years. I've spoken to dozens of former federal prosecutors, and regardless of the administration they served in, even regardless of what district court they may have worked, the point is, to a person, they held the law sacred, and that they believed that as referees, you know, it wasn't shirts and skins. I can only imagine the conversations going on at the Department of Justice and kind of re-examinations about where lines are anymore, because forget about being blurred. You have somebody just taking a giant eraser to them. I got to imagine for the general public there's a culture shock. You know, your old colleagues and even yourself trying to say, what is going on?
Yeah, it's a very difficult thing for lawyers who sort of play within the rules and within the lines in terms of adherence to the law to be looking at a situation where there's a sort of flagrant abuse of the law. The difficulty here is, frankly, that we're talking about one individual, the president. The president has unique authority and unique power, and the Attorney General, Bill Barr, he is somebody who has a lot of experience at the Department of Justice, and when the president is a president who plays by normal rules, there's really no issue. But this is where we're seeing Bill Barr's his support of a very strong office of the presidency, a very strong executive power. And it's really being tested right now, I think, at least for the nation. I don't know if it is for Bill Barr, but if you go back and read his memo to Rod Rosenstein from last summer, it's pretty clear that he views the president in his exercise of his constitutionally granted authority, like the pardon authority or the ability to hire and fire government officials like the Attorney General or the Director of the FBI. He gives a lot of latitude to the president and is not really of the view that you can look into the motives of the president for taking constitutionally granted actions. So this is a very, very interesting lineup of individuals and views about presidential power.
Well, to that end, you've seen a lot of serious people question after both the 2 days of testimony on the Hill and also the summary report that Barr put together, that they're questioning whether or not he's going to be an honest broker in this whole process. Conversely, Rosenstein said people, have to cool their jets here, and that whether it be the spying comment or whatever, that they're making too much out of this. From your perspective, after hearing what you heard in his testimony, Willaim Barr, and also the report and the pushback, I should say, from the prosecutors who worked on the Mueller team about his conclusions, where do you fall? What do you expect from Barr in terms of what he will, won't redact, and how transparent he'll be?
Right. Well, fortunately, we're getting to the point where there are diminishing returns in terms of having to speculate, because we are going to see what he's able to show us pretty soon. I do think he'll meet his own deadline. He is a deadline-oriented person, and he has met his deadlines in the past. So I think we are going to see it next week. I do think, however, it's worth setting some expectations. In an ideal world, we would see a report with just a few redactions, some names, a few bank account numbers that are redacted. That's not going to be the case. I'm 100% sure of that. There are going to be quite substantial redactions. He's already talked about having to color code the redactions. And the reason I think there are going to be so many redactions is because Bob Mueller is an extremely thorough prosecutor, and it's very clear that he approached his job as the special counsel in a traditional criminal prosecutor's way. He took the grand jury and he did a criminal investigation primarily through the grand jury. And what that means is there's going to be a lot of testimony and probably a lot of documents that are not going to be shown to Congress or the public in this first pass, because they can't be, because they are grand jury information. And he did not do what even Bill Barr said he thought might have happened, which is produce a report that was partly what Bob Mueller thought could be shown to the public, and then partly was sort of cordoned off into separate reports. He did not do that. He did the full, extensive report, mixing grand jury information and intelligence information into the report, getting all the facts he had into one report, and now they are having to go through the painstaking exercise of redacting out all of the grand jury and intelligence information, as well as the information that will impact ongoing investigations and information that will harm the reputations of peripheral individuals to the investigation. That is a very difficult task, and I think there are going to be a lot of blanks in the report that's going to frustrate a lot of people.
To that end, maybe it's just wishful thinking, but don't you think there's an inevitability? I don't think that Mueller would put a 400-page report, the 19 prosecutors attached to it and all, the support staff, to have work product that wasn't intended to be digested, by the general public, but at least a gang of 8. I mean, you have, the heads of intelligence, the House and Senate, who all have top clearance. Surely they should be able to see the non-redacted report. Inevitably, don't you think that this is going to get out one way or the other?
Well, that is what I think is actually the largest misunderstanding by the public. My answer is actually no. I don't think a lot of this is going to come out at least anytime soon. And I honestly don't think Bob Mueller was really conducting his criminal investigation with an eye towards what could be released to the public. He is as straight-laced a criminal prosecutor as you will ever get, and he would not in any way compromise his investigation. And when I say compromise, I don't mean do a bad job intentionally, but I mean use anything but the best investigative techniques he had at his disposal. He would not sacrifice that so that something could be shown to the public at the end of the day. The grand jury is an incredibly effective tool to criminal investigation, but if you're going to take the roses, you have to take the thorns too. And the thorn is that there's a very, very limited amount of grand jury material that can never be disclosed to the public, and there are only a few limited exceptions, and it is what it is. There's going to be a big legal battle if Congress wants to try to get grand jury information by getting a court order to do it. I'm not saying that the special counsel would necessarily oppose it, but the court has to follow the rules as well. So the way the rules are written today, it's going to be very difficult to get disclosure of that material, and Bob Mueller and his team are not going to leak it.
Well, that will set up an unbelievable fury if that happens, and you know far better than I do. Carol Lamb, thank you so much for a few minutes. I really appreciate it. All right, everybody, when we come back, we've been talking about the questions and concerns about the Attorney General and his handling of the Mueller probe. Well, my next guest says, and he should know, Barr, he says the most dangerous man in America. And again, that's coming from a Republican.